Hello and welcome. My name is Christina from Empowered Creator. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything without the fluff. So if you guys like this content and you would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, like it, share it, and stick around. Also, if you need help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching, email coaching, as well as custom subliminals for whatever needs you may have. I also have some self-study courses about manifesting your specific person. So if you're interested in any of these services, the links are below in the description box. Click on them and they're going to take you to my website. With all that being said, let's dive into today's video. In today's video, I want to address a question that I get quite often, and I know a lot of people are very confused about that. And the question is, do I need to take any action when manifesting my desires? And I made a community post about that recently, but I also thought it was worth making a video about it, because this is something that a lot of people in the manifesting community actually wonder about, and it can be confusing, it can be worrisome for some people, and a lot of people just downright don't know what to do. So hopefully this video will help clarify things. So this is what I'll be discussing in today's video. Stay tuned. So it's been a while since I made a video talking about taking action versus not taking action when consciously manifesting a desire. So it's time for another video, it's time for another refresher on the subject. I know it is an ongoing issue with a lot of people, it's an ongoing question. People don't know how to handle it. Do I take action? Do I not take action? What do I do in the 3D? And so on. And what makes things even more confusing is that a lot of people in the manifesting community teach that, oh, but Neville Goddard said that you don't have to lift a finger. All you need to do is imagine. So that means no action whatsoever, ever, under any circumstances, and so on. Well, you guys, this is not the case. What Neville was actually talking about, it's true that he said that phrase, you don't have to lift a finger. However, this needs to be read within the context in which he said that. That is very important. Neville was specifically warning against forcing action, taking forced action, trying to manipulate the 3D, trying to force the 3D, trying to instigate a change in the 3D from a state of lack and from a state of fear and from a state of not believing and feeling that if I don't take any action, nothing is going to happen in the 3D. That Neville was against, and rightly so, and he was categorically warning people against taking that sort of action, what we call forced action. However, Neville was all in favor of what we call inspired action. That is action that is natural to the state that you are building, to the state that you're living in. And of course, as you can imagine, this is going to vary from person to person and from desire to desire. Indeed, there are some desires where you don't need to take any action whatsoever. And yet, there are other desires where you need to take quite a lot of action in the 3D, as long as it is the action that is natural to the state you're in or to the state that you want to embody. And let me give you some examples, because Neville himself took that kind of action, that kind of inspired action to help his desires manifest and get fulfilled multiple times, you guys. There is the story where he applied to be honorably discharged from the army during World War II, and he filed an application. That was a very concrete piece of action that he took in the 3D. Yes, he was imagining being in his apartment in New York City every night for a few nights until the approval was granted. Yes, he set that intention. Yes, he created that in imagination. But also, he did what was natural for him to do in the 3D to bring his manifestation to fruition, which was to file an application for the discharge. And of course, what he didn't do was go to his superiors in the army and pester them and say, hey, can you please grant me the discharge? Please, I beg you, grant me that honorable discharge. Please, I need it. Please, you have to give it to me. He did none of that. That would have been forced action. That would have been trying to manipulate the 3D. He took the natural action in this case, which was to file the application, and then he created the rest in imagination and rested in full trust that it was going to come to pass, which it did after about 8 or 10 days. Another example from Neville is when he was looking to sail back to New York from Barbados and the shipping company didn't have any seats available on the boat for something like 3 or 4 months. Well, unfortunately, Neville needed to travel by a certain date, because he needed to be back in New York for some speaking engagements that he had. So what he did was that, yes, he created traveling earlier in his imagination. He created that scene where he was traveling and going on the boat, but also in the 3D, he went and put his name on the waiting list. He took the natural action that anyone would take from the state of, I am someone who wants to travel on a certain date, so I'm going to put myself on the waiting list to give myself a chance to travel on that earlier date. And that's exactly what happened. He created it in his imagination, and a couple of days later, he got a phone call where they had found an earlier date for him. But he also went and put himself on the waiting list. That's very, very important. Because otherwise, how would the shipping company even know to offer him the earlier sailing dates? Now, he didn't go and pester the shipping company to push him up on the waiting list. No, that would have been forcing the 3D. But he sure put his name down for the dates that he wanted to travel. Another example, again from Neville, to show you guys that Neville was taking inspired action all the time. It wasn't that he was just sitting on his sofa or lying on his bed, imagining his desired reality and doing nothing. He wanted to rent an apartment in New York City with his wife, and he wanted to rent it for a set amount of rent. Well, what he did was that he actually went and rented the apartment, and initially the rent was even higher than what he wanted and what he anticipated. He paid it anyway, and he created in his imagination the reality where he was paying a lower amount of rent. Eventually, what happened, after about 3 months, his landlord decided that there had been a mistake and that he was paying higher rent than he should have been paying, and so he lowered his rent and he even refunded him for the months that he had overpaid. However, Neville, in the first place, went and rented the apartment, and he even paid the higher rent for a little while. He didn't go and have an argument with his landlord about lowering his rent. You need to give me a lower rent, or I'm leaving, or I'm not renting the apartment. You know what the landlord would have said? He would have said, okay, I have other renters interested. You go your merry way. I'm going to rent it to someone else. So this is, you guys, the whole point of taking inspired action, action that is natural to the state you're in or to the state that you are building for yourself, versus trying to force the 3D, versus trying to manipulate the 3D, versus trying to do everything yourself in the 3D without changing your state, then yes, that is forced action, and that is not a very good idea when you're a conscious manifestor. So if you want to start a business, for example, you go and register your business with the right authorities. You promote it. You take the steps that you need to produce the product or the service or whatever it is that your business is doing. If you're looking for a new job, you apply for jobs. Or perhaps you let your network know that you're looking for a job. These are all valid actions coming from the natural state of who you want to be. But you don't go and pester your potential employer, for example, every day for an interview. That is forced action. Hopefully, you're able to see the distinction and you're able to see the difference between the two. I know a lot of you watching this channel are manifesting a specific person. When it comes to a specific person, it's actually best to not take a ton of action, because a lot of the time, actually most of the time, the action that we take when it comes to the specific person is action taken from a place of lack. It's action taken from a state of, I don't have it, I feel I need to chase it, I feel I need to instigate things, I feel I need to push things. And that doesn't usually bring your manifestation closer. And this is why I said in the beginning of this video, it all depends on the manifestation, it all depends on the desire, and you need to use your own judgment and your own discernment as to what kind of action constitutes inspired action in your case and for your desire, and what constitutes forced action in your case and for your desire. But it's a myth and a misunderstanding and a misconception that you never have to take any action whatsoever, no matter the desire, no matter what. A lot of the time, the action that is natural to the state you're in or to the state that you're creating is action that is going to be a bridge to bring you closer to your desire. But you do need to use your discernment, and you do need to be honest with yourself, especially when it comes to manifestations that really matter to you. For example, a specific person or a job that you really, really want and you feel like you're desperate for it. If you're going to take any action, it needs to be natural, it needs to be inspired, versus it being forced and coming from a place of lack and a place of, I feel like I have to push things because otherwise it's not going to happen. That is the kind of action that usually you are advised to avoid. So I hope this clarifies things. I hope this makes it easier for you guys to keep going on your manifesting journey. Don't be afraid to take any and all action. Just make sure it's the natural action that comes from the right state. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped. As always, I very much appreciate you guys being on this channel, watching this content. I love making this content for you. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all at the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.